Well, hello everyone. I'm Maritza Barone and welcome to my podcast, Things You Can't Unhear. Today I have Alexandra Roxo with us. She's a writer, actress, and transformational coach sharing her insight into spirituality and sensuality. From acting in many films and plays over the years, she now turned her focus to work with people on their healing and spiritual paths to find their power and their voice and shine brightly in the world. Now, Alexandra coaches others through various ways, including online courses, retreats, one-on-one sessions, and her mentorship program and full moon rituals called Moon Club. Hi, Alexandra.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. I have actually been told all about you, and she paid it forward by Ruby Warrington when I interviewed her about the Sober Curious movement.
Oh, she's wonderful. We actually we have a call every Monday now. We used to have them on Wednesdays where we would do a 2-hour Zoom meeting, and they became kind of like a peer mentorship space where we came together. We would share what's going on in our lives. We would hold space for each other. We would collaborate. And that's been going on now for a few years. And our friendship, she calls it a collaborationship. We did a podcast about it on her podcast, the Now Age podcast, about how incredible it's been for us to collaborate and how we've worked through so many different things together and been so inspiring to each other and like gone through really hard times together, but we've just had this super solid friendship. It's really amazing.
I think that's so important when you're working on building your own business from within, to have someone who's like-minded to bounce ideas off. It's so important to have that mentorship, that coaching of someone so supportive. So you're very lucky to have that.
I know. She was incredible. Like, she found me when I was like 28 and I had made my web show Be Here Now-ish, which was like a satirical, comedic look at my own spiritual path. And I was laughing at myself. This was 7 years ago. I was laughing at myself because I did all the things. I drank all the green juices. I did all the cleanses. I went to all the different yoga classes. I did, and so the show was just like the comedy in that. And Ruby watched it and she was like, this is brilliant. And at the time she was a writer for the London Times. And she was like, Alexandra, you're ahead of the time. And I co-wrote it with a woman named Natalia. And she was like, I have to meet you all because I know this is going to become really popular and you guys are ahead of the curve. And so she wrote a 2-page glossy in the London Times magazine about us. And she was just like, are these girls the new age? And it was so cool. Anyway, that's the beginning of our collaborationship.
Oh, I actually haven't seen it and I really want to watch it because that sounds right up my alley.
Oh my goodness. It's so fun and so funny. And I'm so different. It's me 7 years ago, but I still love it so much because it has that spirit of the comedy in some of the things that we do, if you were like a Goop reader, right? And you're like, the fact that we're reading about like vaginal steaming and like, bee therapy where you get stung by bees, just like all these things that 10 years ago we would have been like, that's crazy. And it's kind of like the needle has moved in some places, not all places, right? If you go into the middle of a small town in probably like where you live or where I live in the US, people probably would still be like, you guys are crazy for doing your green juice cleanse or you're this or you're that.
Yeah.
But like for people that are kind of more urban and more intellectual, more privileged, there's all these different factors, but the stuff is becoming less weird,
It's becoming like, much more mainstream. People are definitely getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love how you
gotta watch Be Here Now-ish. Everybody go watch it. My character goes on a couple's colonic on a date with a guy, and it's really funny. It's really funny.
Actually,
very LA, but I have never heard of it, but we made it up, but it feels LA.
Vaginal steaming is something that's in the media here in Australia at the moment too.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had not heard of it.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I want to read a post that you have. I actually think you wrote it this morning or today. And it really sort of delves into what I want to talk to you about. So I'm just going to read out a little bit of this post.
All right.
When I left New York City for California 4 years ago, I had a mission to relax into my feminine side, to slow down, to discover my heart in a new way, to heal some of my deepest wounds, and rewrite some of my oldest narratives running through me. I was amidst a 7-year cycle that began Saturn's return. During those first years, I dove to the bottom of all the shadow parts of myself, and the last 4 years, I healed and transformed them. I did some of the most painful and terrifying internal work those years, really hard to put into words, but it is what made me able to do the deep work that other women now do. Because if I could not dive into the deepest, darkest parts of myself, how could I help other women go to theirs? Now, that is such a beautiful piece of writing, and it's so important to sort of know where people are coming from when they're in pain. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for reading my writing out loud. It's
So
a
beautiful.
luxury. I really appreciate it. Um, well, wow, I love writing so much, makes me so happy. So I have always kind of been on this spiritual path. My mom raised me in a way to understand life as being in a school, basically. Like she raised me to understand that I was here to learn and to evolve. She never raised me like, you're here to have a perfect husband, baby, and a cute house. I mean, she wanted all that stuff and still does want me to be happy. But there was this understanding like that you're here to have your soul evolve. And that was kind of something that one of a spiritual teacher that I came across through my mom, he taught me that too. He was like, you have karma to work through. Everybody does. And he explained it to the 12-year-old me. And he said, it's like you're on a stage and you're trying to perform, but you have these rocks tied to your arms. And so you're walking through life trying to dance and to perform and to have this glorious moment where you have these heavy rocks weighing you down. And essentially, he was explaining to me the concept of karma. And I was a 12-year-old. And it made sense, though. I was like, okay, so yeah, we all have these things that we're dealing with. You know, some of them are external, some are more internal, some are both. And we have these different kind of lots or a hand of cards that we're dealt. Some of the things might be coming from our family, from our ancestors, from our society. Some of them might be collective wounds. Some of them might be religious wounds, cultural wounds, and some of them might be really private kind of familial wounds. So some of that, so that kind of idea of understanding myself came at a young age of like, okay, there's certain things I got to work through.
And I think we're all the same though, aren't we? Every single one of us has wounds to heal.
Oh my God. Nobody, if you don't have any, you're not here. And that's what the best spiritual teachers would say, Ram Dass and Buddha. Like, if you don't have any, you're enlightened. And if you're enlightened, you feel completely different. If you're enlightened, you're a saint. People want to come to you. And so it's quite obvious when people are at a higher spiritual evolution because they feel different, you know, like some of them more like Jesus, for instance. I mean, people are still talking about the guy and he died 2,000 years ago. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like, when you're at that point of like, you know, you've mastered your humanness, you've gone through the suffering and the pain, and you've mastered suffering, and you've walked through your karma, then you exist on a different level of being. And we're not there. Otherwise we would be Buddha or Jesus or, you know, one of these other teachers.
Exactly. So is it women that you really connect with in your work?
I do, though I love men, and I've done, it's part of why I haven't connected with men is because I've had a lot of healing. I mean, connected with men in my work, I connect with them in the world all the time, but as clients, is part of because my own personal story has involved healing around men.
Right.
So I haven't been as drawn to create a program or to work with men and women as my clients, because I've been doing a lot of personal healing around men and my father and around my relationship to men in the last 7 years. So now that I kind of feel complete on that healing, I feel open to working with male clients. I had a few male clients, but I was kind of like, meh, I would prefer working with women. That being said, I don't know what it's like to live in a male body. And so I don't know what it's like to go through what men go through, but I do know what a lot of things that women go through feel like viscerally. So I feel a lot more in integrity to lead with other women and to guide them through, say, body image issues, self-confidence issues, sexual issues, shame issues, daddy issues, like all these things, because I've worked through them. So with men, like, I don't know what it's like to be a man. So,
Can only
you
just
know,
imagine. I really respect that, actually, because it's so important. When I've learned about how to choose a coach or a mentor, it's always someone who has recently been through some type of struggle the same as you. So it's
yeah.
someone who knows how to recently come out of it, or has been through that emotion and that feeling, and knows how to pull you out. And I think I really respect that you put your hand up to say, I know what it feels like to be you. I know what it feels like to be a woman. I know what it feels like to have your pain. I know how to get you out of it. And it gives you so much more credibility.
Yes, I know, which partially I honestly think is, I mean, who knows? I don't know the explanation, but I think it's part of the karma that I took on because I needed to work through these things on my own. It's kind of like giving someone a puzzle. You give a child a puzzle, right?
Mm.
And you know, if the child can't put the puzzle together, then it's not going to teach another child how to do it, right? When it's older or whatever. Like I had to put together my puzzle, right? With my own like shit that I was dealt with this life or handed this life. And I had to sit for years and try to work it out so that then I could guide other women. If I hadn't dealt with any of that stuff, then I don't think I'd be the best guide.
Exactly.
So, yeah, even though it sucked.
That's right. I mean, there comes a point where our pain makes us who we are, and you know,
Yeah.
without that pain, we won't be where we are today. But you talk
Yeah.
about a lot. What does you talk about our feminine fire? What does reclaiming our feminine fire mean to you? Do you think many of us have blocked our femininity and our sensuality significantly over the years?
Yeah, and I don't think it's our fault. I mean, it's a global thing. It's like patriarchy on a whole blocked all of our feminine fires. You know, most religions and most governments, and the religions behind governments, et cetera, are teaching that women are not equal. Women are not holding the same positions in religion. Women are not holding the same positions in government. Women are not given equal rights in many countries. Women have been written out of all of the spiritual and religious narratives to an extent. There's only a small extent that's included in religious and spiritual narratives, and it's very curated. And yeah, I think that the patriarchal narrative includes not only cutting out the feminine fire, but the fire of the other, the fire of anything that threatens the white traditional paradigm of being. So that includes indigenous peoples and people of color and LGBTQ peoples. So for me, claiming my feminine fire is claiming essentially how I'm a part of the other, though I'm the most privileged of the others. You know, like white women I'm at the top of the food chain of people that have been oppressed by the patriarchy. But I think that, you know, whether it's your feminine fire or the fire of whatever has been pushed out of you, the reclaiming of that is essential. And then the holding space for others who are reclaiming theirs, you know? So me reclaiming my femininity is me saying, hey, women were burned at the stake, written out of the Bible. They're not allowed to be in government positions and not allowed to be in positions in spiritual institutions. And we're taught that that our sexuality was bad and all these things. And me reclaiming my feminine fire is saying like, hey, I'm tired of this traditional cultural narrative. This is really not cute anymore. Like, it's not working, obviously, because the climate's a mess. And, people are going into places and killing with machine guns. Like, obviously, not having women as a part of the decision making on this planet has not been a good look for anybody. So, like, we need to reclaim. And that's why also holding space for our brothers and sisters of color and indigenous peoples to have this space to do their healing and to help invite them in and create inclusive spaces, because they've been oppressed so much more than me. Not that it's like a thing that you can necessarily scale in checks and balances, but that reclaiming, I think, is essential to our wholeness on the planet and our healing as a greater collective.
It's almost like women have to squash their femininity sometimes to be able to compete in leadership with men. And it's sad. It's sad that we can't show that side of ourselves, because you're right. It's what the world needs in leadership.
Yeah, the heart is taken out, and the heart can be, all things, all feminine, masculine, non-binary, whatever. But yeah, we don't live in capitalism. Can't be sort of heart-centric, because then we would be considering all the peoples that are oppressed by it. So it's like, but women, we have kind of statistically and historically been like the ones that have wanted to create spaces that include the heart, that include compassion, right? Because I think women, as the ones that give birth, have a natural sense of compassion and empathy. So I think, having women in leadership positions, making decisions about, let's say, immigrant rights or the climate, we're going to make decisions that are usually from the heart, unless we are operating under that guise of the paradigm, the patriarchal paradigm, right? Like, so there's many females who work in government in the US that are operating from that masculine, patriarchal place, not a whole embodied masculine, but the toxic one. So I hope that makes sense to you. It's a bit complex. It's not black or white. It's not like I can say, oh, all of us, all of our feminine fire, like, no, we saw all sorts of people operate, in a non-heart, compassionate way. So it's definitely not about gender, but it is about reclaiming this greater creative energy that exists, that has been identified with the feminine principle, and the female body beings embodying that compassion and love and let's say magic and mysticism were killed and pushed away in many, many cultures across time. So it's just, I do think that here we are, continuing the transformation in our own lives on a personal scale, which then has the ability to ripple outward.
There's definitely been a rise, and hopefully it continues in that direction. Now, tell us about the Moon Club that you created, because I've been following this on Instagram and through your social media and website, and just looks absolutely gorgeous to see these retreats come to life. All these women barefoot in nature in long gowns, and it's just it's so godly. Tell me all about it, because I have to get over to one of these retreats.
Yes. Part of, I think, the reclaiming is coming together and just being able to find a space to get offline, to tell our stories, to laugh together, to cry together, to breathe together, to dance together. And Moon Club is about returning to the cycles of the moon and charting our evolution and growth by the cycles of nature and the moon, which were the ways that a lot of different humans lived across time. So in Moon Club, we come together, we follow the lunar cycles, we gather on the new moon and the full moon. We have gatherings online and offline in many places around the world. And I also create a monthly lunar guidebook where I write different rituals, all custom, that I do every month. You get it in your email box, and then you get a guided new moon ritual with me that you can join live, or you can listen to the recording. And I do a visioning journey. So I basically like take you into your deep imagination, into a slightly altered state where you can really plant some seeds into your consciousness for what you want to create in that next cycle. And it's such a nourishing space. We've had so many women coming and going into that space over the last few years, and had them have huge healing moments, had them through the sense of community have the courage to create their own businesses, to write books, to speak up, to write blogs, to hold their own circles, to become healers, or to, become an artist, or whatever it is. We have been able to foster this really beautiful space of community, and that Ruby and I created that together. And it's just been incredible. And it's not promising to fix your problems. It's not focusing you on external, like fast money and like find a man and find money and like, no. It's like, let's deepen your connection to yourself, and then let's watch how your life changes, because you're in deeper peace and happiness with yourself, and you found the goddess within you. You found the inner mystic. You found that connection to love inside of you, or the divine inside of you. And that is where everything's coming from. So it no longer becomes about, just trying to make your life look pretty or have a certain number of followers or whatever. But that stuff can happen as a byproduct of the gorgeousness that you're creating inside.
It's so important, because today there's so much information thrown at us. There's so much busyness through the media and through podcasts. I mean, we're listening to one now, but there's so much accessible information to us, and to just take a moment to step back and remove ourselves from all of that noise and go within is so critical to our mental health, really, isn't it?
So much. Yes. It's really awesome to come together and to have a nourishing space, to get real, to be authentic, and then to find that mystical, delicious spark within yourself. That's like, oh yeah, I can create the life I want to create. I can, take control of my healing and make it so fun and beautiful and communion. And I don't have to focus on, this kind of self, like do it myself alone. No. Like we're meant to grow together. We're relational beings as humans.
What do you think have been the key practices to your own personal healing?
Great question. Well, meditation first and foremost. Meditation is definitely an incredible space of quieting the mind, of internal processing, where insights might pop forth. Another one is writing and journaling. I started The Artist's Way, which is a book by Julia Cameron. I read it the first time when I was 19, and she has you do something called morning pages. And you write every morning when you wake up, 3 pages in your journal. Now I've been doing that for about 15 years, though, I'll take some time off sometimes and I don't feel like doing it. Writing is one of my key places I process and heal. Also breath work. I do an embodied breath work that I teach in Moon Club, and it's an emotional processing space. So, some of the emotions that we don't always want to make space for, anger, rage, extreme sadness, grief, some of that we have space to process within that practice. So it feels a little less scary. The problem is if we don't experience those emotions, it's not because we don't have them, because we're all humans and we all have them. So it's just a matter of, do we have space in our lives for those things to come through in a healthy way? So what I find is, like, say if a woman is not in contact with her rage, let's say, she's probably not in contact with the most primal deliciousness of her sexuality, because those two things are connected. The ability to feel some of the more primal kind of darker emotions and the ability to have a really amazing sexual experience, in my opinion, are tied. When you go into a practice embodiment and you're on your hands and knees and you're moaning and you're hissing and you're just releasing sound, or you're releasing energy from your body, you will somehow through the magic of your creating more internal space, you're going to be able to drop into a deeper, more juicy experience of yourself, whether it's sexual or just the way you walk through the world. So embodiment, meditation, writing, storytelling have been some of the best things, dancing. And again, that don't appropriate from other cultures, right? I don't have to take from a culture, especially a culture that's poorer than me, especially a culture that is still going through oppression. Those things are my right, to dance, to tell story, to write, to feel my feelings. And that to me is incredibly important as we go through our healing process, that we don't just steal from other cultures that are still going through a lot of pain and suffering just because we need their tools now. That doesn't feel really fair to me. So I really love looking back to how my ancestors were healing themselves, which was dancing and herbs and storytelling, and know. So
I would love it. Some of that is probably part of your morning routine, because I wanted to ask how your morning looks and how you start your day. I'm assuming it's with a meditation and some journaling after you've said that.
Yep. And then some embodiment practice where I can drop into my heart space, feel some feelings, and go from there. And I also usually, I have been writing Instagram posts for the last few years every day, but now I'm conserving that creative energy a bit, and I'm going to do that less. I'm not going to give every day like a full writing.
There definitely is a balance there, isn't there? There's a balance where we need to turn on and off to have a break. Even from that, I think it's really important. Who have your biggest spiritual leaders been? I know your mum was obviously a huge impact in your life.
Yeah. She has been.
You're so lucky to have that. I think that's something a lot of people crave.
She and I have also been to hell and back. So, I mean, it's not been just that. There's been several insane, difficult, gut-wrenching traumas between us. But I am 1,000 times grateful for, she and I have some deep karma. We've gone through the ringer, and we'll still go through more, I'm sure, but hopefully with a lot more love and consciousness, because, there were some deep crises that happened between us that took a long time to heal from. But I'm super grateful for all of it, because she's been one of my greatest teachers, both of my parents. They've been the portals for some of the most intense suffering ever and some of the deepest bliss. And I've gotten to a place where both of them have asked for my forgiveness for some of the things that happened between us. And we now exist where there's just love between us. And there were times where I thought I would never be able to talk to either of them again. So
I've had a couple of guests on my podcast who have said that we choose the life that we are living, and we choose every element of it, and we choose our family, and we choose our experiences. Do you believe in that?
Oh yeah. And my mom and I were both knew that was happening the whole time, that we were playing out whatever karma we needed to play out. But oh yeah, she taught me that I chose her when I was young. She's like, you chose me. And there were multiple psychics that told us that we had been sisters last life and all this stuff. So it was very, very clear that, I chose my parents for the teachings. They're my teachers. They're supposed to teach me about, all the things, rejection, abandonment, neglect, suffering, love, bliss, just so many different things. And I'm grateful, and I'm so glad, I know so many people don't get, I'm sorry from their parents if they've gone through traumas with them. And I know I'm so lucky that I've gotten both of my parents an apology and asking for forgiveness and mutual crying together and saying, wow, we went through some fucking tough shit. So that I know is really incredible. I know it's because I've done the work on my side. I did so much deep work so that I was able to forgive and release. Yeah.
You sound like you're in a good place at the moment. So
yeah.
Judgy.
Yeah.
Now, actually, talking about past lives, I recently interviewed a regression therapist, and she offered me my first regression therapy session delving
Oh my
into my
gosh.
past lives, and it was unbelievably eye-opening. And half the time I'm in this deep meditation just wondering, am I making this stuff up? Like, where is this coming from? And then I felt this huge emotive sadness when my love interest left my life, and this sadness sort of lasted all day and I couldn't shake it. I was just like, I can't be making this feeling up. I may be making a story up, but I can't be making this feeling up. It's quite so intriguing when you delve into what your past lives could have been. It just have you been involved in regression therapy a lot?
Yeah, not a lot, but there's this incredible woman in New York, Shauna Cummins, and her on Instagram, she's called The Wishcraft, and she's a hypnotherapist. And she doesn't do like past life regression every session, but we did a regression once and it was so trippy. It was so real. It was like, I mean, even though I'm all about all of the deep spiritual stuff, I'm still, I can be a very skeptical person. Like I love facts and I love understanding things, like, you know, so as it was happening, I was just like, this is too weird.
Same. It's exactly how I felt.
I was like, but then I came out and I was just dripping tears as I was talking about seeing myself with this man who I had loved this life, but this life we're not supposed to be together. And he was telling me, like, next life we're not going to be married. We were married then, you know, and I got to see our life together and I was just so trippy. And then it was like I was beamed up to the stars after I saw that vision. I was in the cosmos floating, and then I felt the next man who was coming into my life, and it felt so different. They were so different, but I couldn't see him, but I just felt this like happy, joyful, playful dude who was very different than the tall, dark Danish, like very stoic man.
Yep.
And I was like, I came out of that whole thing and I was just like, whoa.
This is so an episode for your Be Here
Now-ish. Yeah. And I met the next man like 10 days later, and he was a hilarious, laughing, joyful, playful man. And I was just like, this is just, it's a wild life.
It's actually hilarious. Well, I just wanted to leave our listeners with something, a bit of advice from you. So is there something that you can sort of leave us with to tell us how to go deeper into our intuition than we usually hear, rather than the 10-minute meditation that we should do every morning and every night?
Here's the thing. Whatever you're going through in your life is exactly what it's going to take to get you a level deeper. Here's the thing. A lot of people avoid looking at what's actually happening and avoid the feelings. The feelings, if you have the courage to sit with them, to feel them, to not spew them onto other people, but to really let them open your heart, your pain, your suffering, your anxiety, your anger, whatever it is, then you'll create a deeper relationship. In my opinion, we try to just enter our spiritual growth from the mind. We want to like read a meditation, listen to a thing, read a book. It's not going to work. It only gets you a certain level. It has to be a full being, full heart opening experience. So what's the best thing that opens your heart? Love, pain, anger. So if you can actually sit with those things, and so if somebody rejects you, instead of going, okay, everything's fine, I'm just going to keep going about my life and everything's wonderful and I'm going to make a list, I'm going to burn it and everything's good. No. You actually sit and you're like, amazing, this is incredible. I've been gifted this incredible mirror towards my deepest wounding, towards some of the parts of me that perhaps need some help. Instead of avoiding it, I'm going to sit, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to go so deep with this experience. It is my current gift. It is my current puzzle. It is the book that my heart is reading. Most people don't have the courage to actually look at that. So they either bypass it by going, everything's fine. I'm going to look in the mirror and go, I love myself, even though my dad rejected me. They won't feel the feelings of the rejection, Or people numb out, they eat, they drink, they watch TV, they work too much, they exercise too much, they don't go into what's actually happening. Or they eat, numb, avoid it, bypass it, or numb it. So I want to challenge anyone listening to actually look at your life as being such an incredible teacher. Everything that's happening to you is happening for you. I didn't make that up. It's not just me who believes that. It's happening for you. It's a gift to wake you up. It's a gift to transform you, to butterfly you, to blossom you, if you take it. But if you just keep letting those gifts, those lessons just roll by because you're too scared to look at them, then you will have to come back and do it later.
It'll come through at some point, right?
Yeah.
I think there's so much fear there for people to actually
I know.
Have to
so come to Moon Club. Come to Moon Club. I'll hold your hand. We hold each other's hands together. We laugh. We dance as we cry. We write about it. We share. We're just like, holy fucking shit, I can't believe this is happening to me. I want to run away. I don't want to look at it. And we're like, no, you can do it.
Can you bring it to Australia?
Oh yeah, but people can do it online. The whole program is online. So,
that's
I love to come to Australia.
Yeah, well, if you're offering, send me over, Elsa. Now, are you writing a book at the moment?
I finished writing my book and I just turned it into my editors. We just did another round of edits. It will be coming out next year in the spring. So, the book writing process is a long process, but it's going to be great. And it's going to have all this stuff that I talked about today written down with tons of like exercises and stories, all the wild things I've done, all the mistakes I've made. I'm giving them to you to read.
Has it got a title yet?
Well, it does have a title. It's How to Heal Your Shit and Fuck Like a Goddess.
That is going to jump off the shelves. I'm absolutely certain, especially with that title. Thank you so much, beautiful Alexandra, for sharing your insights with us today. You're a really exceptional and interesting woman. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone who's listening. I hope you got something really juicy that will sit and plant a little seed in you. And I'm just sending you all courage on your journey.
Thank you, Ruby, for paying it forward and introducing me to this woman.
She's an angel.
Thank you for all of our listeners. Let's keep the conversation going. I'd love to hear what you thought of this episode and Alexandra Roxo. You can find me on Instagram at Maritza_Barone. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. Be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind.